As we remember, yesterday the World Trade Organization's 10th Ministerial Conference hit a deadlock when delegates failed to agree on agriculture and export subsidies. And now we want to cross over to KICC, where our business reporter Joy Doreen Bira is following this conference. Joy, what is the latest from your end?
Sharon, thank you so much. And it's a windy afternoon here at the Kenyatta International Convention Center. But this wind doesn't seem to come with a lot of good news because we are seeing a number of negotiations still going on, and a number of other mini committees also having to decide on whether or not they should be agreeing or disagreeing on the issues that led to the deadlock yesterday. That actually made sure that we didn't have a Nairobi declaration on the last day of the 10th Ministerial Conference. And so a whole lot of negotiating is going on. The text is being reviewed, and when we talk about text, these are some of the resolutions that are being re-edited and finalized, so that by the time we have a declaration, everything has been agreed upon by all members of the World Trade Organization. So I have my colleague with me here, Adelaide Chongole, and well, Adelaide, it's been a whole long 5 days for us on this side of the Kenyatta International Convention Center, and everybody's wondering whether or not we're going to see this extend to Christmas time.
Right.
Yeah.
It's actually very true. We have been waiting for these talks to conclude, decide on Tuesday at around 3 o'clock, and they have been continuing since. In fact, you remember that the closing ceremony is supposed to be yesterday at 3 o'clock,
right.
But there was a postponement to 7 o'clock, and then we were told, oh no, in fact, it's not even going to be today at all. We're going to do it tomorrow. So obviously there's some major issues that are still being negotiated, and obviously you can tell people have taken some very, very hardline stances, particularly you can imagine the developing countries, and on the other side the US, talking about particularly the Doha development agenda and the issues about agricultural subsidies and trade facilitation and some of the export competition. So some of these issues have become very contentious, and people are taking very, very hardline stances. And clearly you can tell that's what happened yesterday. But Ambassador Amina Mohamed, who is a chairperson of the Ministerial Conference 10, which is this meeting that's being held here, kept saying yesterday that she's very optimistic. She thinks that actually a very good agenda, a very good resolution can be made from the Nairobi Declaration. But that's only if they can agree. And,
right.
It was supposed to, the decision is supposed to have been read between 8:30 a.m. and noon. And right now it's 1 o'clock. And there is no, end in sight. There is no white smoke. So, we're still hoping, we're still optimistic, we're still here. And we are hoping that this comes to a close. It's been a very, very, very long 5 days.
Yes, it's been long 5 days. But remember, this is not the first time that we are seeing the extension of the ministerial conferences exceeding the time for which they were scheduled. This happened in Bali, in Indonesia, during the 9th Ministerial Conference. It happened in Cancun, where they actually had to extend it for a whole 48 hours. And so actually yesterday when I was speaking to Ambassador Nelson Dirango, who is the Director for Economic Affairs and International Trade at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he did say that, if there is no extension of time, then nothing has happened during that conference. And so hopefully this time around we can come up with some strong resolutions and agreements that are pro-developing countries, because what we're seeing right now is that a number of lobbyists are accusing the developed countries, particularly the United States of America and the United Kingdom, of manipulating global trade and also looking out for their interests, but not the interests of developing countries. And the issue that came up yesterday was about cotton, where the subsidized farmers in the United States are actually not in any hurry whatsoever at all to even say, you know what, we're now reducing the subsidies, the farm subsidies for cotton farmers, and to allow fair play from the African continent and other developing countries where we have cotton growers and farmers in countries like Mali, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Chad. And so this is one big issue that is causing a deadlock here at the 10th Ministerial Conference. The issue also about Adelaide, about the Doha Development Agenda. Yeah, that's also causing a lot of trouble.
Actually, let me interject. The US actually passed a 60% tax rebate for cotton farmers in the US just this week. So you can imagine this might not have been greeted. This must not have been greeted very well by the delegates here. We're talking about, this these things being, you know, a trade distortionist measure. They're coming in and they're distorting prices in the world market. And so, I mean, you can imagine 60% on top of all the benefits they get is quite a bit. But also there's something very interesting about the US. The US trade ambassador had actually, you know, issued a statement saying, you know, developing countries should now move forward from this Doha development agenda, that, you know, it was time, but it was, you know, resolutions from 2001, we're now in 2015, and we should move forward, there are new things to discuss. But the developing world is still saying some of those issues that were raised then are still relevant today, and they want a resolution on those things, and they have actually refused to move forward. The US and the UK, I believe it was, wanted to introduce new issues to be discussed, but they've said no new issues should be introduced until the Doha development agenda is actually implemented. And I don't know, I mean, we are hoping again that, you know, some resolutions will have been reached. Some people will give a little bit, some will take a little bit, and then we can, you know, finally move forward from this, because it has been 14 years. I mean, it's really time to put that to rest.
That's right, and that is where the bigger question now lies, because the negotiators here are wondering, do they just, you know, shelve the Doha development agenda and come up with a new strategy? And if there's that new strategy, the United States is saying exclude India and China from the developing countries classification, and that to allow other developing countries as well to trade fairly with the rest of the world, because right now I think China and India are the United States' biggest competition at the moment, knowing that China is the biggest manufacturing industry in the world that we are seeing today. So these deliberations we're hoping can come to an end today, so we can have that declaration that is pro-developing countries yet again, because developing countries need this more than ever. Sharon, back to you in studio.
Well, thank you so much, Joy, Doreen, Bira, and Adelaide Changole there, just giving us updates on how the negotiations are going on at the KICC, and very crucial discussions there regarding agricultural and export subsidies.